Juan, what up, world? Teasy Man here with a video. And today I'd like to talk about my road to redemption. But before I move forward with that, I'd like to say that I want to start talking about my road to redemption on the regular. Just putting it into little bitty stories. Uh Not too long, not too short type of stories. Make it sort of like a series. So if you follow me and subscribe to me, when you see my road to redemption, it's probably like just gonna be a series to the, everything will connect. So, I do say a little bit on one video, say a little bit on the next, something like that. So I'll just phrase it as my road to redemption. But yeah, that's just a side note for anybody who may be interested moving forward. With that being said, my road to redemption, I figured today, since it's the start of it, what better way to start than from the beginning? Like literally. Because, I was sitting around, well, I have been sitting around lately, just analyzing my life, thinking about my life, how far I've come, how far I've gotten, and how removed I am from what I once was. And I went to trying to figure out how exactly did it happen. Because sometimes we think we know, but when we really think about what steps led to what you see today, and why was I the one that made it, or why was the one I survived, like survivor's remorse, things like that, like, because it's a lot of cats that come up with me that, kind of lived on the same playing field, and, it wasn't so fortunate. So, it causes one to think back, in depth, in detail, like really honestly look back. And that's what prompted this idea. So, just for beginners, like, I'm born and raised from New Orleans, Louisiana. To my mother, Gail Henry, father Charles Henry, which my mother, she's originally from Houston, but my father was originally from New Orleans. And she went to college in New Orleans. She met my dad. Long story short with that, they got married, had us. So that's the reason I'm from New Orleans. Although Houston, Texas is like a second home of mine. Because again, my mother's from Houston, my daddy's from New Orleans. She just happened to have us in the part of her life where she was in college, and she chose to, wed. And she chose to stay down there in New Orleans. So I'm literally from New Orleans, like, born and raised, like Methodist Hospital. But being born, growing up in New Orleans, I got two older brothers. My youngest of three. You know, my mom was a great person all around, like hardworking, very intelligent, loved her kids, never left us hanging, raised us to do right, as best she could, each and every one of us. And we all turned out to be who we are, our own personalities, but within the same rules and the same, we all had, it was an even playing field, and we all turned out righteous in our own right. Me and my brothers, that is. And that's something I can say I'm proud of. But, starting out, you got a single mom with three boys. And unfortunately at that time my dad was bitter. So, he wasn't around, like, the divorce, all that, he was in his feelings, whatever excuses he was making, but, he wasn't what we needed as a father at the time. So my mama had to play mama and daddy, which to her credit, she did a great job. It's like my mama had to cut off her femininity just to raise a boy. And sometimes I feel bad about that now, knowing what she sacrificed to make sure we was all right, especially, given some of the stuff I still ended up doing anyway as a result of her trying to deter me from that. So coming up in New Orleans, me and my brothers, single mom's barely making it by. I want to say at one point my mom was making $15,000 a year, just all together with three boys. So, again, even though my mom's meant well, the unique thing about New Orleans, and it's not to slight anybody else's city or nothing like that, but like New Orleans different. Like, you could be a well-to-do kid, but then, You gotta have something in you just being from New Orleans, just period. Like even if you ain't a tough guy, you can't be like, you can't be a fake ass nigga. You can't be a bitch ass nigga basically. So, excuse my language, but you gotta have something in you or nigga gonna play with you all day, every day until you do something about it. So, me and my brother, we learned that at a young age. So we developed this model like, you fight one of us, you fight all of us. Like you just like, because our moms always taught us to be, you know, close knitted and watch each other back. So we took that literally. You might as well fight all of us. You fight one of us. For a while, that's what it was like until we obviously grew out of that and learned the one-on-ones, and we was really good at that too. Not to brag, but specifically with me, I was a unique individual. Coming up, I always was talented. Like naturally gifted. Like I was the guy that didn't need rehearsal. Not saying I don't need rehearsal, like I'm better than, but like I'm on the spot, improv, unscripted. I'm the king of that. Like I could just go, just shine a. You could tell me I gotta do something 5 minutes before I gotta do something, and I'll not only do it, I'll excel. Like for a side note, like for example, I remember I won a state debate championship, and I didn't even know what a debate team was, and I found out 5 minutes before, and I took a team that never even practiced, wasn't even supposed to be on the team, and won it all. And I only found out 5 minutes before what a debate team even was. All I needed to know was the manuscript a little bit, and I won a state debate against elite debaters, and it was a landslide. It wasn't like even close. Like it was like I obliterated them. Like, but that's a side note to how like special I was. And in my life, going to school, coming up as a youngster, I always was gifted. So the teachers, that I come up with that had the privilege of teaching me, the issue never wasn't you know, my grades or my ability to learn or what I know. It was always my behavior. I was a very unruly child, even when I was a kid, like a little like kid, I would do stuff like run on the table and get suspended. I was getting suspended in the second grade type, who gets suspended in the second grade? Like your child is just wild. Like, and so my mom's credit, she had to deal with a lot dealing with me. And those were the early signs of like, what was to come. Like this kid is smart as hell and super intelligent, actually borderline brilliant, if not brilliant. But he got an attitude that's gonna lead him down some dark roads. And not only does he have an attitude like that, he actually with it. Like he ain't scary. And so that's kind of like my childhood coming up from that. Then I got older brothers, and we all got our own personalities. I got my big brother James, big brother Elwin. My James was more of the athletic kind, stayed out the way, wasn't really, no troublemaker unless you bother him. But he wasn't no bitch either. Play with him and see. He was like one of the big brother that had to play daddy, because with you again, daddy was gone. So, he kind of gave up a bit of his childhood for us too. So, appreciate him for that, because he had to watch out for us, especially me, because I was going astray and he knew. But it was harder for him because he was like borderline rocking how I was rocking. So, but once, looking back at his little brother, he had to realize like, oh, I'm influencing my little brother and I'm supposed to be the father figure, but such a burden on him to have to be a father figure at 11, 12, you know what I'm saying? When we coming up. And when the childhood turns into the street politics, the gangster side of it, especially coming from New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know, and we from around, get ready, Paul. Current Benson stand up. Ask anybody there, they'll vouch, overly vouch. But anyways, yeah, Current Benson, get ready, Paul. Yeah, like it was just a mentality. Once you go outside, the wolves out there. And see, that's what my moms were naive to, coming from Houston, not understanding like this is a cultural thing. Like we are literally products of our environment, mom. Like buying us Jordashes ain't gonna work, moms. Like, they gonna rip the fuck out of us, moms. like, you know, stuff like that. So like I was a kid that I guess you could say seemed ungrateful at the time because although my mama would provide, she would provide like stuff from Payless, which she could afford, no slight to her. You know, she provided the necessities. I just was like, nah, I ain't going for that because I'm tired of getting ribbed at school. You know, for those of y'all that don't know what rib is in New Orleans, like ranking or Jones and talking about somebody, you know, we call it ribbing in the but yeah, you know, me and my brother. So at some, you know, after a while, you know, we realized like, you know, me and my brother, we all realized, oh, we poor, you know, like when you start going to school and thugging outside, you start realizing you poor. And your peers will remind you every day till you do something about it. It was that bad. So, you know, I'm the youngest brother. So it's like you would think the oldest brother would have took on what I took on. But again, I always been a juggernaut, a giant. You know, this is what I do. I always been super confident, the king of improv, unscripted. I don't need no practice, right? So, you know, I'm paying attention to my environment now. I'm getting to know people, getting to know my Mel, all them, my partner, the Devin, Kyron, them, Moo, of course, School, Herm, Jack, Peter, just to name a few, Goretti, Paul, Stan, CC, you know, a lot, you know, rest in peace, Chucky. Yeah, it's a bunch of, but you know, yeah, we coming up around Goretti now. And mom's only could do what she could do, you feel me? She feed us and she clothed us. But, you know, it's not up to standards of going outside without getting tormented, and I'll fight you. But I still had on pro wings and Jordasses, so, you know, that's when I start, you know, you got your, you know, you're 10, 11, you know, but you're supposed to be in New Orleans, you know, what anywhere else in the world rather, you know, 10, 11, you know, you thinking of going to the park swinging, you know, and yeah, not New Orleans. You go to the park, niggas smoking weed, you see hustling going on, big fine women, right? Time to time killings, you know, yeah, real life murder, you know, like stuff that traumatize you even if you old, let alone being 10, 11, witnessing these things. So, you know, you sit on the sideline for a while because you're just too young, you're a young pup. But even though I was a young pup, I always was different than the older cats would tell me because my observation and my ability to apply what I observed to match and mimic my actions always been a thing for the OGs to make me the exception to the rule. Like I was the young kid that was the exception to the rule. Like he could come because he a mature young nigga. You feel me? So now I'm even more exposed to that fast life and the way it go because I've proven that I can conduct myself under these circumstances and learn the do's, the don'ts, and not only learn that, find my way to elite status and elite level of thinking, unbeknownst to them until they seen what I was doing on my own accord. Like things like, you doing what? I didn't even know you was doing this. Like, yeah, I peep gang. Like I ain't why you ain't say nothing? Well, you know, why did I have to say something? I don't need your permission to hustle. So obviously the hustling start. Like now I'm hustling. But for like little do they know for me, I'm hustling because I'm tired of pro wings, Jordasses, and I'm tired of seeing my brothers in that shit too. You know, I don't think they had the gall like I did, but you know, they didn't stop it either, even though they didn't want me out there hustling. They ain't stop it either because at the time I was pretty good at it, and whatever, despite what they were saying, I was taking my brother like, nah, yeah, let's go to the plaza, the mall, you know, like what y'all call it, the plaza in the east. You know, let's go get right, man. No more hand me downs, cause there was times where we were so down bad, you know, we would have friends that have these buckets of shoes that they about to throw away and let us pick through them, and that was our first day shoe, like yeah, last year's uniform type time. You hear me? Like so, imagine going to school for the first day with somebody throwaway shoes. You know, that feeling was at the time, especially was it was enough to make me do something about it. You hear me? Because I was too gifted mentally to you know Like I know how to make some money. Yeah, I started with cutting grass and the normal stuff kids start with, but I realized that wasn't going, cutting grass wasn't it. The money didn't add up to the work. You hear me? Even though I know at the time I didn't know, I know now, hindsight, that it's the long game, but you couldn't tell me that was too slow. And then I'm steady watching my people, like my peers, you know, the ones that chose hustling, persevere. Like, they got all the fine, the fine women, they got the nice clothes, they always get to buy, fast food and you know what I'm saying? It's just, they always got the weed, they smoking, they don't gotta go bum $3, they straight out. I aspired to be that. I said something about me when I was a youngin' told me that's where I belong. I belong with the ones that, yeah, you know. And so it kind of makes sense what I am now, thinking back. That's why I wanted to start this my road to redemption. Like, I became exactly what I said I was gonna become from that time. Like it just wasn't developed yet. And but going back, yeah, a little bit. So, yeah, coming up around already now, I'm hustling and I'm really getting good at it, like to the point where like, yeah, say what you want, but Teasy got pop money in his pocket. You can ask anybody. So from a youngin', I've been making money since I was 12 years old, right? Literally. Like, nah, it wasn't a legitimate job, but I mastered the art of making money at 12. Like, since I was 12, I ain't never looked back. Like, I always was the type of cat getting money, whether big or small, but I never was the type of cat that you come around, you always broke. That's never been. I always say the two easiest things in life I ever accomplished was making money and getting pussy. Excuse my friend. I ain't never had trouble with women. I ain't never had trouble getting money. Because of my environment, the people I come up around hustlers, real life, street, again, I wasn't necessarily raised to be that. My mama raised me, don't get it twisted. My mama's a master degree nurse, but this came later in life, obviously. But my mama literally raised us right. I just chose wrong because of my environment she was naive to where she moved. You feel me? Like, I hear you, mama, but do you know where we actually, you go to work, you don't interact, you don't go outside. It's literally the jungle out there. So, we had to rock and roll or we got rolled over and we wasn't going for the road. Yeah, we wasn't, nah. None of my brother was pussy. Let's just be clear. Because you might meet like my brothers and they real chill cats, especially James. James, you know, no trouble, squeaky clean record always was about positivity. But like, yeah, even him. Yeah, because we was in that jungle. We got up out of it. So, people get to relax and be themselves, boy. It's in them. It's in us. You know what I'm saying? We try not to bring it out. We lead with respect every time, you know. And we got a bond like our brotherhood, like need to be documented. I always try to talk to them about doing podcast, maybe one day. Until then, I'm gonna put the work in. And anyway, like just coming up hustling, now I'm getting money. Like to the point where I ain't asking moms for money no more. My moms ain't stupid, but she ain't that smart either. She just like he ain't asking for nothing no more. And around that time, that's when we moved. We was moving from around Goretti because my mama bought our first house. So she quote unquote, just to give you an example of being from New Orleans, is like, my mama finally started coming up a little bit, in life, and she finally acquired our homes. We became homeowners. So on paper, this neighborhood is supposed to be a good neighborhood. On paper, like we moving to a better neighborhood, no longer renting. We homeowners. We got to cut our own grass, stuff like we had to cut our own grass and rent house too. But still, like for real now. And the neighborhood's not nice house, everything. But the thing about New Orleans is, the parents be good people, but they got children. And for me, like it was just a coincidence. My life always a coincidence too. I get into that future episodes of this, but I give you this one for this one, the coincidence. While her moving to this neighborhood thinking she was getting me away from all my friends that had developed this, mentality I was on, and I was really living that life for real. You know, my partner Scoop, D-Bag, we called him D-Bag at the time. He read a Scoop, no, Dolphin, my nigga Dolphin Job. He went to A, and at the time he knew it was. I ain't know him at the time, Cedric. He like, oh, you moving to Casamania? Yeah, I know Cedric, right? Cedric, right? Like he around there, he connected everything. You meet him, you straight. Like biz, like you rock with him. It's just like being around already. I'm like, cool, best set it up. Little did I know, my mama literally moved right next door to Cedric. So it's like she was like, I can't win for losing with this kid, because I literally day one picked up right where I started. Because I met and I emphasized Cedric, and I brought him up because that day, like that was, I don't remember the exact day, but it was somewhere around 2001, 2002 or something like that. You know, I was somewhere in the middle of high school, right? And I met Cedric, and do you know, as my best friend till this day, from that day to now, like one of my close, like he more, I don't even like consider him that's a brother to me, like a brother, like real life, long hood, long life friendship, real like, yeah, you know, my dog do anything for me and vice versa. Like I could depend on him right now if I was, yeah. And it always been that way. Me and my dog ain't never had no misunderstanding all them years. Yeah, yeah, that's the type of partner I am. But anyway, yeah. Now I'm rocking with Belly. His real name said it, but we call him Belly. So y'all follow me. Now I'm rocking with Belly. And Belly another street nigga, right? But he brought another element to it. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? That's when that's when you had to graduate. You know, I ain't gonna get into too many details. Just use your imagination. You know, now. You know the low grade hustling turn to the. You know, we stepping it up now. We getting in that part of it where it get dangerous, and you gotta protect yourself. You know, and you gotta stand on 10 and rep your block. We was the wide open boy, tatted on my knuckle. Yeah, gang. I'm talking like this. It is nothing like this now. Statute of limitations way up, but you know, like that was then. Like I was really a full-fledged gangster. You know, heading nowhere fast, right? You know what I'm saying? With a well-to-do mother. You know, like mother taught me to be a well-to-do kid, but I was just at that point now. The product being a product of my environment is really showing now, because now I'm just honing it. Now I'm falling in love with the lifestyle. I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to the fad money, fine women, the respect, power. You know, how people moved out the way when we walked through thinking that was cool. Now I know how stupid we really look. But at the time, you couldn't tell her we was, we was them boys, you hear me? Like wide open boy. I never removed it either though, because you know what I mean? Something different now. Me, the mind, small mouth, rest in peace, ill, my dog. Miss you, boy. But yeah, like we was the wide open boy. That was us. God Wayne. G Block, that's what we called it. Yeah. That was literally ours. You couldn't do nothing move without one of those four people say so, literally. Yeah. So that was a hell of an era. We done had what? SWAT come to the house. We done, you know what I'm saying? All type of just, and we were young, 14, 15 years old, living like grown men, pocket full of money, more money than your mama got. One time it got so bad, I was living so rough. My first ever charge, my mom put me in jail because she found out I was hustling. Turned me over, right? Yeah. It's all good. My mom was a little snitch, but I love her. Yeah. My life was crazy, right? That's how bad I was, you know what I'm saying? Like she found out how she saw that money, all that, whatever. You know, and I'm not proud of this. It's just my story because it's a point to it, right? But as I go through my story, going through all that, coming up with my dogs, hustling, seeing things and doing things and, like just all over the place, you know what I'm saying? Like after, we was just young, wild, treacherous. We didn't have a care in the world. And like if we really was on it, like we was really die, whatever behind it. Yeah, it was like that at one point. And like we just, it ain't too much I want to say, but so I just, preface this as we was some real life street niggas at once upon a time, right? G Block. But moving forward from that, like kind of like 16 start turning into 17, now school and all of this stuff is, grown. I'm closer to being a grown man, and especially with, no, I'm tripping. Let me go back. Before I tell a story, I apologize. It got to a point where I was so bad, my mama put me out the house. I got sidetracked by that jail when she put me in jail. She put me out the house. But, when most kids get put out the house before, they 18, right? They would be like, Mama, please, like, I had so much money. I was like, cool, right? I don't care. I went and got me a little place. It got so bad that my mama said, I just come home, son. I don't care. Not like she don't care or she condone what I was doing, but like, she would rather, she was terrified for her baby boy. She was really trying to, you know, trick me into doing the right thing, but she realized I was really out there and I could manage. Like, damn, this dude can manage. So she just said, come on home. I don't care. Like, basically, in so many words. At least that's how I took it. But I just kind of still treated it like, I'm not, out of respect. Like, did my best to hide my dealings, and, everybody had to respect my dudes. My mom's was always the neighborhood mom. If you hungry, you come. Everybody knew you come eat by me. Like I said, yeah, I had a real like family sense without the father. You know what I'm saying? But my brothers kind of made up for that, especially my big brother E. You know what I'm saying? They made up for that, yeah. So, you know, but then moving through that process, I think at that point I was really headed nowhere. But then Katrina saved my life. At the time, it didn't seem like it. I think Katrina saved Belly's life too, because when Katrina hit, we couldn't go back. And then we got to experience how it feel to live somewhere else. And that's when we realized we was a product of our environment. You see how that worked? Yeah, because at that point, that's when we start. It didn't happen immediately, obviously, but that's when I noticed like Belly moved to Austin at one point. Didn't hear from him for a while, but he found a way to get back in touch with his dog, because that's what brothers do. And by that time, he was starting to turn the tide. And coincidentally, so was I. Yeah, we were still dibbling, dog, but, and, didn't build Rome overnight. So, like, we dibbed and dabbed it. But long story short, 20 years later, at least, it's been 20 years since I've been unemployed. You know what I mean? Like, literally every second of the day for 20 years. I don't know what it's like to not have a job. Like a literal job. Now, obviously, my plan is to diversify my portfolio, which I am. But unemployment is a no-no for me. We're going to make money each and every way we can. So we got passive income. We got literal income. You know what I'm saying? We got, hopefully, this YouTube pop off income. Just a lot of things coming on. I'm a father now. My daughter changed my ways. I'm an active father along with being a financially fit and sound father. So I got both of them. My daughter loves me and I love her. I'm living good. I would say great, but y'all see I'm trying to flex. You know what? Living great. I ain't missing no meals. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. Now, I ain't gonna say just Christian. I believe in the scripture and God and doing the right thing and doing right by others. I have completed it a 360 in my life. I'm all about peace and positivity now. I ain't even looking for no trouble. I be trying to help the youth as much as I can, when I can, where I can. Just you know, trying to find my way back, all them trips to jail and doing the wrong thing and dishonoring my mother and myself in the meantime, being evil and doing evil things and manipulating people and using my talents for evil, all of that is turned to what you see now. And I'm proud to say I got through that, but it wasn't easy. It took a lot of focus. It took a lot of discipline. It took a lot of self accountability. That's the hardest part. Because the hardest thing you're gonna ever do is be self accountable. And you ain't gonna like what you see. But you gotta go through that and accept your flaws. And now it's all coming together and I'm thankful for that. So my road to redemption, man. And it still continues. So this is a little series I'm gonna start, drop maybe once a week or so, and just either pick up where the last one was or just mention something else that could relate to being on the road to redemption. Hopefully this can inspire whoever watching, like, yeah, street niggas turn into positive people later. It's possible, you don't always have to uphold that and get out clean scathed, man. So get out while you can, cause ain't nothing in that life for you, man. I made more money having a job than I ever did in the street when I added it all up after 20 years. 401k pension is crazy, you know what I'm saying? So play the long game, not the short game. The streets ain't what's popping, man, and get on your road to redemption. But I'm gonna end it right here. Until next time, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Appreciate y'all watching if y'all watched all the way through. And until next time, deuce.